This is East Idaho Newsmakers with Nate Eaton.
Thanks for being with us today. We are talking with the people who founded Sleep in Heavenly Peace. You may have heard of their organization. They build bunk beds for kids all over the world, well, all over America right now. We're going to have them introduce themselves. Luke, here, we'll start with you. You kind of created this whole thing, right, Luke?
Well, yeah, I guess I'll take the blame. So I'm the founder along with my wife. We started Sleep in Heavenly Peace in my garage in 2012, and it's grown since then for sure. And so so I act as the executive director and work with the board and all the facility directors underneath that to manage the organization.
All right, and let's just go down the line. Tell us your name and what you do.
So I'm Heidi, I'm Luke's wife, and right now I'm the director of e-commerce, so I get to do all the shopping and pick out our clothes and the things that we want embroidered and that go on our store, and also what we wear for builds and things like that for volunteer shirts.
Great. And a fairly new role in the organization, right?
I'm Nancie Mathews, and I help direct the committee that does the disaster relief. So we just help manage a committee that is available for those disasters that happen across the U.S. and the world, maybe soon the world.
All right, so we'll talk about that as the show goes on today, but let's go back to 2012. You are working with the young men in your church congregation, and you were looking for a service project.
Well, sort of. It was basically Boy Scouts. It was a young men's group that we meet on a weekly basis, and where we search for ways to help the community. And we came across a situation where a family had kids sleeping on the floor. And so, we talked about it in a committee forum with the young men, and it was a good opportunity to teach them the value of what they have, but also how can we help this family? And there was a lot of suggestions came out, and I don't know, I just had a thought came to me, why not build them a bed instead of just going buying them one? And so, and an even better thought, the more I thought about it was, to get a controller. An Xbox controller out of these kids' hands, and let's put a drill in it. And I'd never built a bed before, but my daughter had one, a bunk bed, and I thought, I'll just go down there and mimic it. I can figure it out. So that's what we did. We decided we were going to do that as a youth group and as a service project. And so I went and drew out the bed the best way I thought it would work for us, and kind of replicated it after my daughter's bed. Bought the wood, and then over about 3 days I had these young men come to my garage, and we just slowly put this bed together. Good or bad, we put this bed together.
You give it to them, and then you have leftover supplies, and Heidi, he comes to you and says...
He was just kind of like, I'm just struggling with this holiday season. I need to do something. The kids are on my nerves because all they're talking about is what they want for Christmas, and I need to do something. We need to do something to show them that we're going to focus more on giving at Christmas. And they were pretty young, and so we wanted to be able to teach them. And so one night he was feeling kind of blue, and he went out and just built another one, and I came out in the garage and it was done. So I was like, oh my goodness. And so he, in typical Luke fashion, people that know him, he's very giving. And he says, I want to give this to somebody for Christmas. And so he did. He posted it on Facebook, and the response was overwhelming because it wasn't people saying, oh, I want a bed, I want a free bed. It was, I want to help you guys. I want to donate a pillow, or I'll donate some canned food. And before we knew it, we were realizing that this was something we wanted to do, like that was going to be our Christmas present to each other that year was, let's build as many as we can.
You guys live in Twin Falls. Nancie, you knew the Mickelsons from years ago, and you were living in San Diego.
True,
when all this is happening.
Yeah.
So you put this on Facebook, hey, I'm giving away a bed, and rather than having a million people say, I want it, it was, I want to help.
That's right.
But you did give it away.
We did, yeah. And that was the most ironic thing about it, when we got that kind of response, I learned real quickly that, hey, there's other people out there, that other people in the community that really wanted to help the local community, help itself really. And this was just an avenue or portal that we were going to be able to provide for that. And most of it was friends, and family and friends, and to start out with, people that just saw some of the pictures that we were posting and how fun it was, What we didn't realize was how big the need was. And I think we might be one of those charities, one of the few charities that start out not knowing that there's a need, just doing it because it was fun, and it was an exercise mainly for my kids to start out with, to get that feeling of service. It wasn't until later that we found out that there's really two needs. We found out the community needed something to do, something to feel like they could contribute in a meaningful way. And of course, the most important one is we found out kids were sleeping on the floor.
And regardless of where you're watching from today, there's kids in your neighborhood likely sleeping on the floor, which is what you probably haven't thought about, because I hadn't until I met these guys a few weeks ago. So you build the one bed with the group, you build the other bed as a family, and you just start building beds. And at what point do you decide, this could be something more? Is that when Nancie said, I'll do this in San Diego? Or what happened there?
Just hanging out with these guys. It's a party all the time, and you have a super fun time. So my husband worked for a firm in San Diego that needed to do a service project with their employees. And Luke and him kind of connected, and we're like, hey, we should maybe do this. This is an idea of how we could pull it into maybe a corporate setting. And so we planned a Saturday, and it all worked out. They came down with their trailer and the tools, and we built beds with these employees and in this workplace. And it turned out to be the greatest thing. It's super fun. And I think after that, or even before that, you kind of had an idea that this might work in this, in this setting. And so, and it's great. Like, employees get to get their service hours in. We had families there. We donated the beds to servicemen in the military because of the people in San Diego, and turned out to be great for everyone involved. It was a fun activity. So then we were hooked. We were in.
You were hooked. And is that when you guys kind of thought, we could do this all across the country?
Well, even before that, we built that second bunk bed, me and my family, and we didn't know what to do with it. When we posted it, we got all these people wanting to help and wanting to donate stuff. Even then, it was like, hey, that's great, thank you, but we didn't have really any intention of, number one, ever did we have an intention to go national, but it really wasn't until, we met Haley. And she was a 6-year-old girl that was living with her mom in their car, right? And so I just had this image of this little girl sleeping in the backseat of a car, And when we showed up to deliver this first bed, right? The very first bed I didn't get to go on. I stayed in my garage and helped clean up with all these young scouts, and the older group went and delivered it. And they had told me what a great experience it was. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do another one, because I missed out on that. But I'm glad I did, because this one was really special. Because when we showed up, I kid you not, we walked into Haley's house. She was a sweet little girl, excited to have us there because she just got a home. It was her and her mom's first house. We walk in this house, and there wasn't anything. There was a kitchen table to eat breakfast on, or a chair to sit on, or a couch. There was nothing. The only thing that was in the house was an egg carton, like a milk carton, and it had a hot plate with soup on it. And that's what was the only furniture in the house. And I was shocked. I mean, what do you say, right? And she was excited. You remember, she grabbed us and she pulled us into her room, because she had a room, number one. And we walked in, and there was a pile of Barbies and toys in the closet. And in the corner was a nest of clothes. And that was her bed, It was better than the backseat of a car, but that was her bed. And so it was really shocking, almost unbelievable. Like, you couldn't write this stuff, right? And so, I was more than thrilled to say, hey, we're going to bring you a bed. And she had another sister that wasn't around, but so we brought in this bunk bed. And I think she was, I thought she was excited before, but she was thrilled, couldn't stop hugging us, didn't want us to go, was hugging the bed. You look over to the mom, and the mom couldn't even talk. You know, she was just in tears. And I remember we got done with that. We went and sat in the truck, and it was in Burley, so we had a 30-minute drive home to Kimberly. I don't think we said much to each other. I mean, what do you say? It was just, we were shocked, you know. And it was really then that I looked at my wife and I said, you know what, I think we could do more. You know, how can you not when you see that?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, look, that took me 3 hours, 2-3 hours over the past 3 nights. We build them a little quicker now, but you know, I thought, what better use of my time to get a couple of kids off the floor for, I don't know, 10 years, you know? And so we sat down, and my wife is just the best, because she says, no question, we need to do this. And so we took our Christmas fund and went and bought, I guess at that time it had been 9 more bunk beds. Wow. We bought Woodward. And we went to a bunch of different stores to try to get some help, and we landed at Lowe's, and they're just an amazing company. Lowe's said 50% off anything you want to buy. Wow. That's what it's for. We're going to be behind it. And we were shocked, but
Do they still do that?
most of the time, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not always 50, sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, whatever they can do at the time, sometimes 20.
They'll
you know.
work with you to make it happen.
And that is nationwide that way.
Wow.
It's really amazing. Some store managers are a little tighter because of the markets they're in.
Sure.
But man, most of the time it's at cost or well below cost.
So it starts to roll out, and you get to a point a few years ago where you've got to either quit your job or quit Sleep in Heavenly Peace.
Yeah. Yep.
And how did that conversation go over?
You want to handle that one?
Sleep in Heavenly Peace isn't making money. It's not like you're bringing in a lot of money.
Not at all.
So how did that happen?
He came home one day pretty distraught and just said, I don't know what to do. I can't not do Sleep in Heavenly Peace. It's his passion. I had seen such a change in him that I knew it was near and dear to his heart. You know, I mean, of course it was to mine as well, but it made such a positive change in him. And so he's like, what am I going to do? And he had kind of tried to pull out, and I really got to focus on my work, but it just got so big. The need was so big. He's like, what am I going to do? And I said, you quit your job. I said, we sell our house if we have to. We do whatever we have to, because we're making a difference in the world. And if we can sit the day we die or whatever and say, I sat behind a desk and made $1 million in my life, or if you can say, I got to change the lives of children, no question, that was what we wanted to do. And it wasn't even a question from that moment. We knew we were going to do it. And
my needs changed, you know, and it's really hard to explain. I mean, we all need money. Obviously, we got to pay for bills and stuff like that. But you know, and the way I measured success in life was different too. You know, my success was based on my paycheck, you know, or the toys I had, which was a terrible measurement. And so SHP, I'm very grateful. It brought that recalibration I needed in life, and because of that, you know, it changed who I was and changed my passion and my direction. The trouble is, you know, life is more, my family is more than just me, and so I had to. It wasn't going to be a decision I had to make on my own, you know. And I've got the greatest wife in the world, because not a lot of wives would have said, yeah, we can live in poverty, so you can go do a nonprofit for free.
So how are you living? How do you live? That's the next question.
It is, and so you know, I had to quit my job, and was all in. Luckily, there was a vendor that I had worked with before, and they had a pretty good product that I enjoyed working with them on, and they found out that I had quit, and they said, hey, you know, would you mind working for us? And I said, absolutely, you know, if you understand that this is what I'm going to be doing, you know, this is my passion. And just a fabulous company, just really great. And so I travel quite a bit with them. But with that, the perks come that I can do my my SHP volunteer work, as I need.
As you need to.
Yeah.
After you quit, 2 or 3 weeks later, Mike Rowe shows up. Or was it?
It was less than 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks. He shows up with this show, Return the Favor.
Returning the favor.
Returning the Favor. Tell me how that played out. He returned the favor to you.
Yeah. More than what you see on TV.
Yeah, which by the way, you can watch that whole thing on Facebook and probably on YouTube. I don't know. It's on Facebook for sure.
on Facebook Watch.
The whole show.
Facebook Watch,
Yeah.
So they come to town, his crew, and why did you think they were there?
Well, the funny story was, so the way that you apply, someone had to send in, and back then they've got the Returning the Favor Effect now, which is a web page or a Facebook page that you can go and nominate people. But back then they just would nominate someone on Mike Rowe's Facebook page and say, hey, check out this Sleep in Heavenly Peace guy. We actually had over 15 people nominate us. So I got a strange phone call. Even before that, SHP was getting really busy. Mind you, I was still working at this time. SHP was getting really busy, and I had to come out of a chapter president position and become more of, I guess, an executive director role. I didn't know what that really meant, but so I took that role on. Well, I put a chapter president, one of my good friends, Scott Butler. I asked him. He says, "Let me ask my wife." Yes, that was his answer. So
just so we're clear, a chapter president is there's chapters all across the country that are organizing these service projects, building the bed locally. Yeah. So in cities everywhere, you were doing that in Twin. You couldn't maintain that and run the whole thing.
Correct. Yeah.
So you asked him to step up and help.
Step up. Yeah.
Okay.
So when they did that, what I didn't know is Returning the Favor had contacted him and was setting this whole parameter up. And he made a funny comment to me once. This is a guy that had been, he'd actually helped me with one of the first beds back in 2012, but he kind of just watched it for the 4 or 5 years. And he come up to me and he says, "Oh my gosh, you have no idea what's going to happen." And that's all he said to me. And I was like, well, you've been with us for like a month. What are you talking about, And so, I got a strange phone call, I was like the middle of September. And this gal said she wanted to interview me, but she wanted to interview me like a video interview. I'd never had that. I'd been starting to get some podcasting and stuff like that. People wanted to interview me. So I said, sure, that's great. And so we went through this standard interview, and she says, well, we'd really like to come out and see you. And I said, it was kind of strange. I'm like, come, which means you're coming from where? New York. I thought that was strange. And there's multiple, So it was really shocking. And they said it was for some internet magazine. And, I didn't know any different. I said, oh, that's great, And, but then I didn't hear anything for like 6 weeks. And then I was coming off the mountain from hunting, and I get this phone call, and they're like, well, yeah, we want to come out. How does, I think it was November 14th. How does that sound? And I was like, oh, that's great. But if you come out to Salt Lake, we've got a build going on, and you can see what a build looks like and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, we want to come see where you started it. And I thought, oh, that's kind of weird, And so I went home and told my wife about it. And then they said, well, we're going to send you a photo or a background check. I said, okay, whatever, we'll take a look at that. Well, this background check, yeah, right, Well, this background check was one page of like 10. The other 9 pages was photo release, and this could be used on the. So I look over and I'm like, I remember we were laying in bed, and I look over and I'm like, Heidi, read this. What is this?
Give them your life.
Right.
We thought they're really covering their bases on this.
So I and then I had some other people say, hey, look, you're going to need to take a couple of days off of work for this, And so that's really when I knew that this was going to happen more often.
But you didn't know it was Mike Rowe.
Oh, no clue. Yeah, no clue. And so we had this training seminar going on with all the chapter presidents, because back then we had about 9 chapters. We were doing that training for them on how to build a bed and stuff like that. And they were filming at the same time. I thought, oh, it's perfect. You can kind of get an idea. I wanted to make it look like, hey, we had an organization here. And I turn around, there's Mike Rowe, And what do you say? I mean, Mike Rowe, I can't remember what I said other than I watched it a million times. I'm like, what are you doing here? I mean, it was, And then it would just quickly, I mean, within seconds, the last 3 months just all came together.
But you didn't know they were gonna. So you shoot interviews with them, and then I think it was the next day you were out, and they pull up to your new facility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to catch B-roll. They call it B-roll, right? Yeah. So where they're going to, we just want to see you and your family in front of the old building before we go, blah, blah, blah. And I had to go inside and do some work. Well, I went inside and the place was gutted. And there was Mike Rowe sitting in the middle of the room. And he was supposed to be gone.
Yeah, we thought he left the night before. We took him on a delivery and all that. And then he's like, okay, I got to go. We were like, okay, bye. Like, he's gone.
Yeah, the night before we were kind of bummed because, you're not going to see Mike Rowe again. And there he was. And I was like, what do you do? Let alone all that my stuff's gone, right? Yeah. And it wasn't hard to start putting things together real quick going, wait a minute, I still didn't know what returning the favor was. And so when we jumped in the car, he had hinted that we were going to where our new place was. And I was really excited. And it's funny that they kind of wove us around Twin Falls forever. I don't know why, and then to pull up the building, it was see all those people was amazing.
And they give you the building rent free for 4 years?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
So NBC probably saw that or heard about you somehow, and Nightly News does a spot with you.
Correct. Yeah.
And each time you're getting these big media hits, I would imagine donations and awareness is being raised.
Yeah. Each one of them have kind of taken on their own role. It's really funny. With Returning the Favor, which that received like 9 million views. In comparison, really didn't raise a lot of money. Mm-hmm. For us back then, $20,000 was a 4-year budget. Yeah. But what we got from the Returning the Favor episode was about 2,000 people across the country and in 8 different countries wanted to start this, wanted us to help us start in their town. And so, and we kind of anticipated we'd see some of that, like 50, not 2,000. Wow. And so we had some processes in place that we started bringing on chapters. Nightly News, that one did raise quite a bit of money for us, for that just single little shot.
And then months later, CNN names you. Every year CNN does their Heroes event in December, and you were one of the top 10 heroes. And this is they broadcast this live and took you guys out to New York City. Yeah. And tell the story on how there's 10 awards, and then they match. Was it Subaru that matched?
Correct.
Like 50 grand or something?
Yeah, they matched up to 50.
So you go based on what viewers donate, right?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
So you go off stage, and after you get your award, and the producer pulls up the data or something. Tell what happened.
So so what happens is the night that the tribute show is what they called it, the All-Star Tribute Show aired, that's when the match began. And we knew that was happening. We were prepping people for it, and we told all our chapters presidents, said, look, don't donate. It was Sunday night. Don't donate Sunday night. Let's let the community and the world donate first, because we wanted to get those matches first, and then we'll come in on Monday and donate.
Try to make up the difference.
Make up the difference, right? So I was the first one to present, right? And that was nerve-wracking. I don't know about you, but going in front of 90 million people on it, make you sweat. But no, it's great. And I presented, went down, then came back in the crowd and watched about 3 or 4 more of the heroes. And then I had to go back around in the back to get ready for the other half of the show. And I had one of the producers come up to me and said, hey, have you seen it? And I said, have I seen what? I mean, I've been sitting out front. And she's like, have you seen your match? I said, no. And at that time, everybody but one hero had presented. And I looked, and we were at like $22,000. So we were almost halfway there in 45 minutes.
Halfway through the show.
Yeah, no, not even that, like 40 minutes. Wow. And they had never seen that before. So we were, super grateful. And one of the other heroes, his name's Chris Stout. He does the Veterans Community Project, builds the tiny homes. Him and I were kind of going back and forth as kind of a competition to who'd get the most. It was really funny. And then it wasn't till the next day when everybody else started donating. We matched 50,000 in like 36 hours.
Wow.
Which was the fastest they'd ever seen. Which just goes to show you, we had a good network of people, but when people realize and see exactly what we do, and they again believe it. Because when we tell people what we do, we deliver beds to kids that don't have beds. There's usually two reactions. The first reaction is they don't believe it. No, kids have beds. I mean, how hard is it to get a bed? And the second reaction is, well, maybe, but not in my town. Some third world country or some poverty-stricken city. In actuality, it's not. And when our volunteers see that, and you participate or start seeing pictures and whatnot of these kids and the conditions they sleep in, it changes you. It really does. And then when you look at $100 or you go and buy some bedding for yourself, and you realize, hey, for $20, I can buy a set of sheets for a kid that hasn't ever had any, and they're 6 or 7 years old. That's a piece of cake.
Each bed is $350 around there?
Correct, yeah.
And you can go online, right, Heidi, and if I want to donate a pair of sheets, I can go and click on your website, and I've given a pair of sheets based on $20 or whatever the price is.
Exactly. We call it sponsoring. So you're sponsoring a bed, or you sponsor a pillow or a blanket, and it helps people see. It breaks it down so they can see what each thing costs, because normally you think, a set of sheets, like some people might buy a $50, $60 set of sheets, but really when you're talking about, it's a twin size set of sheets, and you can get them wherever on sale. And so it helps people see, okay, well, $20, that's nothing. I can donate that, but it's going to these sheets, or it's going to that, and it helps people really put substance to it. And I think that encourages a little more a willingness to donate, I would say.
Yeah, you can, and anybody at any income level, I would imagine, almost any income level could donate. Maybe I can't afford a $350 bed, but sheets or pillows. How many beds have you done total?
From 2012
yeah,
now?
any idea?
Yeah. So we've kind of doubled every year. So, we started out with 11 in 2012, and then we went from 11 to 25 to 51 to 77. Surprisingly, I know these by heart, to 136. And then when Returning the Favor came, that 2017 year, that's when we started putting on more chapters, and we did 612, which was just amazing. And that's bunk beds. So beds, that's times two. So that's 1,200 beds, 1,200 kids. And then after the show aired, and then 2018, so last year, we started bringing all these chapters on. We did 4,144 bunk beds.
Holy smokes.
So that's 8,288, right?
Wow.
Kids just last year.
And your goal for this year?
So the goal was 10,000 bunk beds. But we've already reached 1,500 bunk beds in just this year.
2 months.
And it's cold, it's our slow time of build. We've got a lot of big projects, one of which coming up, we've finally got the date and everything scheduled, and this will be the first airing of this announcement, but on June 15th is our Bunks Across America build, which is every chapter in the country is going to build beds on the same day. And we anticipate building 2,500 bunk beds in one day.
On that one day, wow.
On that one day, nationwide. It'll be, we've invited Guinness Book of World Records and all sorts of stuff there because we'll have the most volunteers in one day building beds, obviously the most beds. So with that and all the other potential growth that we see with chapters, we will end up with over 180 chapters easy by the end of the year, and probably more close to about 15,000 bunk beds.
Wow. So you can go online wherever you're watching and see if there's a chapter near you and find out how to get involved. And if your employer wants to have the 100 or 200 or 500 employees go out and do a day of service, this is a perfect opportunity, because you guys basically, the materials are provided, the instructions are provided. You don't have to be Tim Taylor, home improvement handyman guy.
Not at all.
Really, it's very custom. Not custom, but very simple.
Right. Last night we had 20, maybe 20 12-year-olds.
13, 14.
Yeah, so these
came in and built some beds.
They came and built some beds.
And you get people all the time come to build. They've never held a drill, where it's such a simple thing, and they feel so rewarded afterwards. Like, I helped make a bed.
There's just something about when you walk in and you see a pile of wood on the ground, and then 3 hours later there's 20 bunk beds, and you were a part of that. Like, you had your hands on it, and I think that's the niche or the piece that's been missing that the community is looking for is, hey, I'd like to donate money. I just don't know where, and I want to make sure that money goes to the right cause and blah, blah, blah. Sleep in Heavenly Peace, our national average is, I think it was 92 cents of every dollar goes actually to the program costs, which is extremely high. It's great, and we're proud of that. And it's nice for a donor to be able to say, this dollar gets laid on that and buys that piece of wood, and I can actually take that wood and I can be the one that sands it and cuts it and builds it and then delivers it. Not a lot of opportunities like that are available, and we can do it with 5 or 500 people. We're really scalable that way, and so it's just a unique opportunity. Because again, our mission statement is no kid sleeps on the floor in our town. And the reason why we like that, it's unique, because most mission statements is the organization telling the viewer what we do. This is our mission statement. Our mission statement's reversed. Our mission statement is put together so we want the community to be saying it, in our town, And if there's kids sleeping on the floor in my town, and there's something I can do about it, I'm going to make sure I get involved. And that's what we want the volunteer and the sponsor and the donor and all that to feel.
Yeah. And now you've branched out into disaster relief, Nancie. Talk about that. What the goal is, I guess, if a hurricane or tornado, something hits your town.
So we have a fund set aside to help those local areas maybe fund a build so they can provide those beds to those kids in those areas. We're actually working right now. We come in after the fact, basically, so a couple months afterwards. We want the beds to be there in their permanent homes for these people. Red Cross comes in and they do a lot of the super fast, heavy lifting right at first. So we're hoping to help the kids kind of closer to where they find their permanent home. And so right now we're actually working with a chapter president in Florida who's putting together a build in his area. He's a Tallahassee chapter, but he's going to do a build there in Panama City where the Hurricane Michael came through and destroyed a lot. So, tons of homes destroyed, lots of people put out of work and out of their homes. So we're excited. That's going to be soon coming up. We don't have a date quite yet, but he's rallying the troops down there, and our funds that maybe you donate to SHP, but also there's this one arm of it that just goes to disaster relief. And we've also looked into helping. Saipan had a big typhoon in October. Hundreds of thousands of people out of their homes, and they're in, these shelters that the governments come in and build and help, house these people. And we were hoping to take a team over there and actually teach them to build the beds themselves. That way, when it does happen again, because it does that's kind of just what happens, they'll be able to kick in and help their own people and their own communities there.
Oh, that'd be cool. And the goal obviously is to be international and be all over the world.
We are. In fact, the board just 2 nights ago approved our Canada process. And so we'll have SHP, or Sleep in Heavenly Peace Canada, up and running in about 8 months. That's how long it takes. But we've got people that are coming down to be trained, and chapter presidents just gearing up, ready for that. And we've got interest in the UK, Germany. We had a German field crew come and film us. I don't know how that came about, but had a great article there, which has produced a lot of awareness up there. And the funny thing is, it's actually not funny. The ironic thing is, doesn't matter where you're at, doesn't matter where you live. There are kids sleeping on the floor. And what happens is, people that are struggling, the first 3 things they take care of is food, clothes, and shelter. Those are the primary goals. After that, it's just luxury. If you've got a carpet to sleep on, you sleep on your clothes. That's what they do. They can't afford beds, and there's not really anybody out there that's doing this. And so that's why SHP has been able to grow so fast, and because the need's so big. And
just think, if you're watching this in your bed right now, you could be on the floor watching it. And tonight, when you go to sleep, be thankful for that bed and realize that there's 22,000 kids now total. I don't know math, but there's thousands of kids now that have a place to sleep because of the organization. Thank you so much, Luke and Heidi and Nancie. A lot more on the Sleep in Heavenly Peace website and their Facebook page. We'll include the link down below. You can click on that if you want to find out more. They've also received an award from the Red Cross earlier this week, and we'll be posting a story later on to show a little bit more of what they do. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Have a good week.